Hello, this is Sergio Marrero, and tonight we're here at another session of RBL1 Live with Dr. Angela Jackson, who's managing partner at New Profit. Thank you for joining us, Angela.
Hey, thank you for having me, Sergio.
Yeah, excited for you to be here and meet I would say newly minted leader and managing partner of New Profit to share a little bit about her background. She has a doctorate of educational leadership from Harvard University, graduated from INSEAD and also the University of Missouri, and has a background, being a leader in retail marketing and also as a founder and operator and now turned investor. So I'm excited to hear you share your story today with the audience and also share a little bit more on what is New Profit and venture philanthropy. So I'll turn it over to you if you want to share with the audience a little bit about New Profit.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the kind introduction. It's like anytime someone goes down my background, I'm like, God, I'm getting old. It's like been all of these schools and institutions. So like you said, I'm a managing partner at New Profit. We're a venture philanthropy fund. So we've been around for about 20 years, founded by a woman, Vanessa Kirsch. And we've always invested in social entrepreneurs who are really trying to solve complex social problems. What is different about the area that I lead with the future of work, we really wanted to focus not only on social entrepreneurs that were starting 501c3s or nonprofits, we also wanted to focus on like mission-driven for-profit. So entrepreneurs who are like working at that intersection of profit and purpose and thinking about how we build, invest, for a more equitable future of work. So in that regard, last June, I launched the Future of Work Grand Challenge. And that was a partnership with X Prize Foundation and MIT Solves. We had about 1,200 people who submitted ideas and entrepreneurs around accelerated learning programs and wraparound supports. With a dream team of judges, I like to say, we had VC investors on the panel from Cowboy Ventures, also K4 Capital, we had academics, we had training. We narrowed down those like 1,200 solutions to 15. And those 15 we're actually going to pilot starting next month in 6 communities and see how many people we can train and actually get back to work. And then New Profit will do follow-on investments in some of those companies.
Amazing. And can you share more of a lot of the investors that come on, and we have VCs and CEOs, most of them have been traditional venture capital. Can you share more about venture philanthropy? What for those that may not know, what's really the major difference, and can you share more about New Profit's investment thesis?
Yeah, absolutely. So with venture philanthropy, it was really built off a venture capital model. So 20 years ago, what Vanessa Kirsch did was a bit radical. She saw that social entrepreneurs, when they were thinking about solving social problems, they would go after philanthropic capital. And a lot of times philanthropy, when they give dollars, they give it for a specific program. And what her insight was is that these entrepreneurs needed risk capital, right? To ideate, to think about scaling their ideas. And so what she did 20 years ago that was unprecedented is that, she started placing bets on entrepreneurs, and she would give them what New Profit calls build deals. It's $1 million over 3 years to really invest in scaling their idea to reach more people and to do more good. And so that's been our model for over 20 years, working shoulder to shoulder with entrepreneurs, giving them the capital inflection without all of the kind of restrictions that you'd find in traditional philanthropy. We're saying, we're investing in an entrepreneur. They're the expert on their business. We're going to invest in them, and then they'll decide how best to deploy that capital, right, in service of scaling. And so in 20 years, that model's evolved a bit. So we still do that work. When I came on for the Future of Work, while we had for 20 years been focused on organizations, entrepreneurs who were founding nonprofits, we really, when we went and entered the future of work, we wanted to start focusing on entrepreneurs who are also coming up with for-profit ideas that we thought had market solutions, but we're going to do a lot of good along the way. And so we surfaced and started with this Future of Work Grand Challenge, just to let the field know that New Profit was investing in a different way and that we are investing in the future of work. And then we also launched this follow-up fund called Inclusive Future Fund so that we can do follow-on investments in some of those organizations that we surfaced through the challenges with MIT and with X Prize.
Excellent. Yeah, and that's a good question. Is thinking about like, why did you guys decide to focus on the future of work versus, um, you know, climate change or healthcare and or other areas?
So when I joined New Profit, it's been almost 3 years ago, and we wanted to focus on the future of work then because the future of work means so many things to so many people, and for us, we wanted to draw a line in like what it meant for us, and we really thought about an equitable future of work. So we knew that there's all types of new technologies, accelerated learning programs, and just new positions that are being created by the future of work that it affords. What the missing link is that there are a lot of people in the U.S. job seekers who don't even know that these jobs exist, and we feel like there's an information asymmetry. And so what we wanted to do with our kind of philanthropic bend was to like use our capital and dollars to incentivize entrepreneurs who are innovating in the future of work, but we're really thinking about people who are going to be most impacted by automation and who may not know about these skills and who may not have a 4-year degree. And so a lot of other accelerated learning programs, they're targeting people who have 4-year degrees. They're targeting people who have some type of awareness around the future of work. We really wanted to think about how could we use technology to introduce people to these opportunities, job seekers, and then actually train them and place them in jobs.
And I mean, especially with COVID, and now many people have been working virtually for a period of time. We're hoping with the vaccines that people will go back to work, but the cases are going up. Can you share a little bit on your perspective of what what do you think the future holds in terms of the future of work? What things are here to stay?
Well, a couple of things I talk about. One is I always say that we're creating the future of work. Like with every investment that we make right now, with every kind of decision that we make. So we're creating a more equitable future of work or a more inequitable future of work. And so we really think, along with our partners at XPRIZE and MIT, how can we like leverage the power of New Profit to really advocate and think about how can we surface technologies in a way that not displace workers, but also think about how people can begin to work alongside machines. So, everyone who goes, the robots are coming, the robots are coming. I don't think that. I think that the next generation of workers to have sustained careers, they are going to have to learn how to work aside computers and technology and just have a comfortability with that. And so we just want to make sure that all job seekers are getting that opportunity, whether they go to a 4-year institution or maybe they're going to a boot camp. But we're going to say everyone needs some type of proficiency, some level of proficiency to engage in this digital economy.
And what type of entrepreneurs, definitely you're looking for entrepreneurs that are working in the future of workspace. What can you share a little bit more color? Are you just focused on the US, just Boston? What size in the checks do you guys write?
Yep. So we are hyper focused on the US, but we fund organizations, entrepreneurs who are outside of the US, but their applications, technology needs to be applicable here in the US. And looking at our check size, we started at $250,000, but we go upwards of $1 million. And we're funding at that pre-seed and seed stage. And we like to say, there are a lot of VCs out there that talk about their platform marketing. We like to think of ourselves as like ecosystem activators, right? So like catalyzing markets and opportunities that people may not know exist. And to make that a bit more clear, for example, when we talk about these accelerated learning programs that are for people who don't have a 4-year degree, that we're partnering with like local government entities called job centers and workforce boards. And what they're becoming using government dollars are customers for some of the solutions that we've surfaced. And we feel like not only is that like a sustainable and scaled plan, it's also like meeting an immediate like community need. And so for us, we're trying to look at how we, through our relationships, New Profits relationships, can activate like our relationships at a government level, also with employers, to really connect the dots with these solutions that we're investing in and entrepreneurs that we're investing in.
Excellent. I mean, we can dive back into the future of work. I do want to allow time for the audience to learn a little bit about you, about your model. Can you share about how you started your career in the marketing space, and then shifted now into being an investor. Can you share more about how that unfolded, and what led you here?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my career is going to be just like a lot of people's, right? You start in one area, and I started background in marketing, and I did that internationally for both Viacom and for Nokia, and love marketing. But I found myself at a point where I wanted to give back. And so I started my own social venture, went out and raised about $10 million for that. And discovered, how hard it is to actually raise dollars. Before, when I was in the private sector and I had, the names like Nokia or Viacom behind me, those names open doors. But if you're an entrepreneur, you're coming up with your own idea and you're building it, from zero. How do you begin to build your brand? How do you pitch it so that investors really get the idea? And all of my ideas were really always around like how to help people, how to improve outcomes, improve lives. And, sometimes when you look at traditional investors, their eyes glaze over, right? Because, there's a common narrative that if you're doing some type of social good, that you're going to have to take concessions. And so what we've tried to do at New Profit is really align ourselves to say, we're going to fund organizations, entrepreneurs who are coming up with ideas that have market potential, that are going to do a good, but we're not taking any market concessions with that. We're expecting that, they can do good and make money at the same time.
Amazing. And I think that is a tougher thing, especially looking at some of the foundations and endowments. Like they're usually separate buckets, right? Like there's, the grants arm, right? And then there's pure investments. In your opinion, what is needed to move this space forward? What's needed? And what I mean specifically, how can we drive more dollars to these organizations that are both making money and doing good in a sustainable way?
Well, I think it's just with any entrepreneur, like depends on the phase that they are in their journey. They need different access to different capital flows, right? And so what we're seeing at that pre-seed stage and, friends and family, there's certain entrepreneurs who have networks and they have friends and family money that they can get to build their MVP. There are others who come from socioeconomic backgrounds that they may not have that. And so that's where maybe a grant funding may come into play, right? And so what we're able to do with New Profit, because we have these both access to grant funding and also kind of equity investments, we're able to meet an entrepreneur where they are at the stage of their development. And that flexible capital and that more patient capital that we're able to give them allows us to stay along with them in their journey and to just grow naturally without having the pressure of having a 10x return. The returns that we're looking at are modest, they're 3x. So we're not going to say that, we'll have that 10x, but also, it's a respectable return at the end of the day.
Yeah, you still want the return to sustain the funds and fund future entrepreneurs. So
that's exactly it.
Great. No, that's amazing. What inspired you to go from being a founder to now being an investor?
Well, frankly, going out there raising starting something, I didn't know at the time I was doing anything radical by being a founder, right? By being a woman. And then two, being a woman of color, like I didn't know all the stats that we hear all the time. This was back in 2008. And if I had have known them, I wonder, like I look back now and say, would I have been discouraged? Would I have done it? And I probably would have still founded my organization. But from that experience raising money, like I was really committed to helping other founders, helping other women raise money. And so, I used the platform, like you shared, I went back to get my doctorate. I did my research on using capital as a lever for systems change. I interviewed with a lot of VCs, and I really wanted to find an organization that I was like mission aligned with, that was like one, committed to like funding women and committed to equity. And, that's where I wanted to kind of start my shop and launch this fund. And like New Profit was a perfect fit. And really to have founders, be they men, women, or, if they identify as other, have just a different investment experience, right? And so a more inclusive experience, one where they're seeing someone like themselves sit around across from the table. And I'll give you an example, pre-COVID, we thought like childcare was a nice to have. I think after COVID, we see that it's essential. You see how many women left the marketplace. Pre-COVID, we were already looking at innovations in childcare and innovations in transportation, because we know those things make work possible. And like, why do we know those? Because like, we're women, we have children. And so when women come to us with those ideas, or founders who have other kind of proximate issues or and problems that they're solving for, we have a representative and very diverse team that can be able to look at those and have matched lived experiences to like work shoulder and shoulder with the entrepreneur to actually deliver on those experiences. Beyond just our investment, it's really around that extra wraparound support that we can give a founder.
Excellent. And what are some of those things that you think New Profit does uniquely that supports social entrepreneurs?
So, one is really around our ecosystem activation. For us, it's about putting in our dollars and writing our check, but really stepping back with the entrepreneur to understand at an ecosystem level, what else needs to be true for them to have a scaled product? And especially when you're talking about these solutions that are at that intersection. And so for us, I mentioned earlier, having those relationships with actual customers that we're bringing to the table, be they, workforce boards, or being the employer relationships that we have. And I was just talking to one of our portfolio companies today, and they wanted to test their product with like a chief HR officer, and I look at my phone, I've got a couple of them on speed dial. So we're able to make those connections and get those pilots. And I think those close relationships really make the difference. One is because, this company could be a potential customer, but like, this is just real-time feedback that they can get from someone immediately. And that's just based on our relationships. The last thing that I think that we bring that's really important is this kind of proximate view. Clay Christensen, the late Clay Christensen at HBS, would talk about non-consumers. At New Profit, because we have this equity bend, we try to see the potential of everyone being a customer. And so what we've been able to successfully do is figure out who's going to pay for those non-consumers. And so when I talk about relationships with workforce boards or government entities, we've been able to successfully unlock those funds on behalf of entrepreneurs to get contracts and follow on customers.
That's great. I had Clay Christensen as a professor. It was great to learn under him before he, while he was at the Harvard Business School.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So yeah, at RBL1, we focus on a lot of this, is like how to not only like look at opportunities to invest and look at this from multiple lenses, not only making a profit, but also making an impact. You mentioned the systems level, right? Like, how do we get more like limited partners, right? To say, to make more New Profits, right? To back or to give New Profit more funds, right? Like, how do we, what are things you think that we can do at that systems level to really, instead of, move the needle, but get results in, of the 5-10x way?
Yeah. So a couple of things. And one is, we're still early days. So we're proving out this concept. But I will say, from this Future Work Grand Challenge, we had over 1,200 people apply. We have 15 that we're validating in like 6 cities, right? What we've already been able to do through our relationships is also leverage that to get an audience with the Department of Labor. So based on conversations with those entrepreneurs that we've invested in and that we're validating, like, they've told us the challenges that they've had working with the government, right? Challenges to accessing this funding. And so what we're able to do was compile those insights, and we had an audience with the administration. And now we're doing a follow-up event with the 15 solutions and the White House. So it's things like that that we can break open, and it's going to be good for these entrepreneurs that are in our portfolio, but actually it's going to be good for any entrepreneur who's really trying to crack the nut and open up that market. And so we're attuning to that, and we'll actually have a proof of concept, right? And so I think that the big North Star is if we're able to get some changes in legislation later this year, but we'll have a proof of concept that we can actually share with other aligned mission VCs. And so I think VCs will start paying attention when they see the outcomes of this, because right now, when I tell people this, some VCs, they think that's a lot of work, right? Other LPs see the potential in it, but no one's really proved out the concept. And so we're about 50% there. In the end, if we talk 6 months from now and I come back and I say, you know what, we had 15 entrepreneurs, they were able to get, X million of dollars in contracts, and we're able to get this law change, you'd say, okay, they were able to activate this ecosystem. And then there's a playbook there, right? And we can share how we did it, because honestly, this is the secret. It's really not that hard. It's with everything else that we're doing, it's about relationships, and it's just about putting the time in. And it's about aligning kind of incentives, right? And so when we talk up to the Department of Labor, they're interested in accelerated learning programs too. They're interested in effective technology because they want to get people back to work. So it's like we have some shared value and shared interests. It's just a matter of aligning those.
And can you talk about how you structure, I know this is different than traditional venture capital because you also invest in nonprofits. I mean, you've backed Camelback Ventures, and City Year and a number of other organizations that as well. So how do you usually structure those investments? Are those grants and then you treat the for-profits differently, or how do you all manage that?
And then there's a hybrid, right? Because we've had folks who started as nonprofits, saw that they had market potential, and then came over to the for-profit side. So, for example, one example of that is Flick Shop. Marcus Bullock is the SC. He calls himself the Instagram for the incarcerated. But he started, we brought him in as part of our Unlock Futures cohort. It's an investment fund that we did alongside John Legend. And, we gave him $50,000, and that was a grant. And, he could do whatever he wanted to scale that idea. Since that time, he's gone on, he's raising his first round. And so New Profit, because we're doing some for-profit equity funding, we can be there and we can actually invest now in this kind of round that he's doing. And so every deal is structured differently. When we look at the kind of equity investments, it's just like a traditional VC. We look at safe notes, we look at convertible notes, we look at taking, some other, parts of equity. And then when it's the grant funding, it's really no strings attached at all. And those, again, that's early stage. And sometimes it's just kind of at the idea stage. But what we want to do in terms of we call it portfolio performance support, is with our kind of background wraparound support, is just really stay with that entrepreneur to play out that plan to scale. Sometimes that's going to be with strictly philanthropic capital, but sometimes it's going to be with this more kind of equity investments.
Amazing. Yes, so for those on the line, definitely check out the New Profit website and the investments there. They have a great community of game changers. Can you share a little bit more with the audience? I know we're coming closely on time. What's next for New Profit in your role? How are you finding it, and what's the vision? Where do you want to take it?
Yeah, so I'm really excited to share about this Inclusive Future Fund that we've been incubating, and that's the for-profit fund. It's a $20 million fund. We're planning to make, around approximately 16 investments. So if anyone's listening, if they go to the Future of Work Grand Challenge page, there's going to be a list at the bottom where people can get more information. We've made 3 early investments. We've got more to come. We are still, looking to raise and bring in some more LPs in that, but we're excited just to test the ground and get the funding out there on the street and see what our entrepreneurs are doing. The other piece that we're excited about, one of the solutions that came out of the Future of Work Grand Challenge, Charger Help, they just raised their first round. They started the company in January of last year, 2020. And it's a accelerated learning program to train people to be electric car charging station providers and technicians. They were surfaced through our challenge. We had K4 Capital, we had a ETF fund on the panel, and they led the round for Charger Help. So again, excited that we're already starting to see some traction of the folks that we backed early get follow-on funding. And now we're looking for some other entrepreneurs that we can invest in. So would encourage anyone to reach out to me, and you have my information. Hopefully we can put in the chat. We're actively sourcing deals right now.
Amazing. So, well, for those watching on RBL1 Live, just wanted to say thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Dr. Angela Jackson, for sharing your story. So for those watching, this was Dr. Angela Jackson, that is the CEO, managing partner of New Profit. Thanks for joining us tonight and sharing your story, and look forward to tuning in. Go ahead.
No, Sergio, thank you. I just had to say thank you for this. This has been a blast. And like you're saying, CEO, maybe in another life, right?
No, I think, I think, like you said, there's been a lot in your journey, and like you said, you're just getting started. So we're always starting. The change makers are always changing. So, but I'm excited to see what New Profit's going to do in with the new fund, and just excited that you're here to join us and share your story. So thanks again, Angela.
Thank you.